All right, welcome everybody. Good day. Hope your week is kicking off well. Today on the Couch Time podcast, we are going to hope to give you tools to connect with your kids and point them to Christ, and we're going to attempt to do that by discussing back
Botched
to
that
school.
so bad.
I didn't botch that.
You
It's
did.
fine.
It's fine.
Hold on, listeners. I want you to reply to us and tell us if I botched that. Or not, okay? I think they understand. So let us know if I botched it. If Steven is right or I am right. So I think we're fine. In all seriousness, we are going to talk about back to school today, and that's a big deal right now because students are either at home online learning, they're in person at a private school or a few other public schools that I know are back to in person, or they're completely online, or they're doing a hybrid. Like some people are going to school like one day a week or something like that, and they're on this like A-B rotation or
The
something
Prius
like
of school, something that nobody likes,
Hey, what's wrong with Priuses, man?
Lots of
Stop
things.
it.
That's really
Quiet.
funny. So we're going to talk about back to school, but specifically, we want to encourage you, listeners, with some perspective, and then also give some practical tips on how you can use this time well. So, icebreaker though. Before we go, I didn't tell you guys about this. Yes, icebreaker. Steven's going to laugh at this. Do you judge a book by its cover?
154%.
Yes.
I've never read a book that I didn't first judge by its cover. So,
Fun fact, though, if a book has one of those like takeoff covers, like
yeah,
I take them off and throw them away.
I do as well. But
What's that
first,
called? The dust jacket. It's
Yeah.
first I judge it. So, people say don't judge. You're always making judgments about everything. It'd be impossible not to judge a book by its cover, first off. Second off,
That's
I'm
a
not
bold
going to.
statement.
I make bold statements. Second off,
Where did the phrase come from? Don't judge a book by its cover, though. Like,
someone that's not very smart.
Somebody
So
who didn't have a graphic
if
designer
you
for their
if
book.
you guys ever choose to write a book, make sure you spend the money to get a big cover, a good cover, because it's going to pay off in the long run.
It's true. It's really true.
Don't
this is ridiculous.
don't cheap out on it.
So
do you?
If I'm going to take this icebreaker and go a little bit deep here, the phrase "don't judge a book by its cover" I think is more metaphorical and talking about maybe people. So
I
are
thought you were meaning
suggesting-
literally.
Are you guys suggesting?
I
that we
hate to
should
say this,
judge
but I also judge people by their cover. It's impossible not to. You're always making assumptions about people,
Oh
about
man,
their livelihood, about where they come from.
stereotyping is a very real thing.
It's very real. You are
Well,
going to make assumptions. It's for your own safety.
So, also, I've seen Steven do this. Maybe not judging so much, but he definitely notices people's appearance, right? Because a lot of times, especially if he doesn't know you, he's gonna be like, "Hey, dude, nice shoes." Like,
Dude,
true.
you're looking
really,
fly, bro. That's,
like I learned that from Steven. I was just like, "Man, I gotta pay more attention," and then comment.
It's a conversation starter. What they look like.
It's really great.
sounds really vain to me. But I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I totally agree, actually, with what you're saying. It makes sense. So, all right, ice is broken. That's kind of silly. We were talking about that before, which is why it's funny. So, all right. So I just wanted to tell parents, because we've got 3 campuses here: Florence, Independence, and Fort Thomas, and we have students from Boone County, Kenton County, Campbell County, Hamilton County in Ohio, and Claremont County. We've got students. And Grant County in Kentucky. Are there any others I'm missing?
I don't think so.
Yeah. It's like we've got students coming from a big, vast area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A big, it's pretty cool as far as
That is
perspective when
sweet.
you look at footprint of our church and
Yeah.
students are where we're pulling from. That's a
Mm.
big deal. And a lot of
Yeah.
schools represented.
Yep.
So, Josh, Steven, what are students saying, your kids, the teens in your youth group, what's the vibe around school right now?
I think, for the people that are still online, I've asked people, I was like, who prefers online? Who doesn't prefer online? The students I talked to hated online. Online school, they said it's hard, it's hard to learn. A lot of them have like a lot of schoolwork. I had a couple kids like not be able to come to youth because they're like, I have so much schoolwork I have to get done, so much homework. So I think a lot of them, it's probably hard for them to organize their lives in a way that allows them to like get things done when they need to get done. So I think it's causing people to procrastinate a lot with online school, and they're putting things off, and then they're getting stressed out, and their weekends are building up with schoolwork. For at least the kids that I talked to recently.
Yeah. I think it's kind of a mix of, since we have a lot of homeschoolers too. It's like, well, nothing's really changed for them.
It's pretty normal.
And then for those who are like public or private school, I mean, it kind of feels like a little bit all over the place. Some are like, hey, there's something to do, and then some are it's just hard to take things seriously because it's online. But that's kind of
Yeah.
the vibe around
Yeah,
here.
I've got kids that have switched and are now homeschooled. They were going to school and now they're not, so that's new for people. And I talked to
Like
another kid-
officially homeschooled, not
yeah,
not
like officially
yeah, yeah,
homeschooled, and
got
they're
it.
not. They're not. Some are happy about it, and some it's not. And it's a joke. It's kind of it's funny. It's whatever. But
Right.
it's. I had another guy I was talking to last night who could not come to youth group because he had to spend 2.5 hours updating his computer because NTI was starting
Totally.
today.
Right.
And it's like my word. And so there's stuff that's on their plate that, yeah,
It's crazy.
it's just it's totally different. So
He was updating his computer for 2.5 hours. Don't you just click update and let the computer update itself for two?
I
No,
don't
it's
know.
besides. It's neither here nor
I
there,
don't know
but
what
it's
I
all right.
mean. So this is
a good
gonna be-
excuse,
I
guys.
have an Apple product, which yes, it's as easy as like, hey, update, poof, and then I wake up and turn it on and it says, hey, Aaron, discover what's new, and I get to see all the new stuff, and it just works, and it's great. Anybody who doesn't have Apple, I don't know what that means to update your computer.
Chromebooks.
No idea.
All right.
So the school apparently gave them one, and they were like, it's gonna take you about a couple hours, so make sure you spend time doing this on Sunday. And so I don't know what that means, but either way, over the weekends they are spending more time doing stuff that before they didn't have to do.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that from several students. What do you think is the biggest deal for teens right now? What's the biggest thing on their minds as far as what's the biggest deal in their minds right now?
I think wanting to spend time with people, like real people, whether it's our fall semester at Florence is looks very, very different than it has in the past, and just being able to be with people is a big deal. But then also kids love singing and different things, and so there's some communal sort of activities that I know that they miss, and just people is a big deal.
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, if you think back to high school life or middle school life, all you really know is relationships. Like you just have relationships with people, and like everything.
It's like all my memories.
Everything that you do is based upon relationships and some idea of connecting with other people. As you get into adulthood, there becomes a little bit probably more responsibility and things that you have to do to support people, and like it's not all about friendships, but school is just a context for friendships and relationships, and then you're learning in that environment.
Yeah.
So I think kids, they want to be with their friends, they want to see each other, they want to spend time together, or at least connect in some way, shape, or form. That's why they're always playing Xbox with each other, and they're playing Warzone with their buddies. Like, it's about relationships, I think.
Yeah, I would totally agree. The first question in all of student ministry that I would say is the first natural response that any kid has to something I say. Hey, we're gonna have this game night, or hey, we're gonna have this
who's
high school
going?
hangout.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna do this middle school. It's like
Who's gonna be
first
there?
question, who's gonna be there?
Yeah.
Like every time.
Yeah.
And I think right now, in the midst of like school stuff, that's the biggest deal to them right now. It's like I just want to I miss seeing my friends.
Yeah.
And I mean, even more than that, they're meeting teachers virtually, and that's weird. I've heard some students talk about
Yeah.
meeting teachers for the
It's so
first time,
hard.
especially kids that moved from middle school to high school. They're like meeting these
Yes.
teachers, and it's just different than normal. But yeah, relationally, I think it's what the biggest deal is. So, parents, I don't know what your answer to that would be as far as, what's the vibe of your kids? What are you hearing them talk about and complain about school or excited about school, or, what you would answer is the biggest deal to them right now. But it is what it is. It's a very unique season right now coming out of quarantine. There's been a pandemic this year that still is going on that we're trying to get through. I don't know what your answers would be, but here's some encouragement that we want to give you guys, that your kids are learning a lot more right now than just what's in school. So it's not just about subjects and topics and classes. They're learning so much more. They're taking in and absorbing so much more than just those things. They're learning about faith. So they're learning about, bad faith and good faith. Hypocritical faith, or they're learning about, what it means to have a good attitude or what a bad attitude looks like. So at the Fort Thomas campus yesterday, Pastor Peter, each campus was preached on something different, Pastor Brian, Pastor Eric, and, Pastor Peter. But Peter talked about grumbling and complaining from Philippians, and it's like they're getting a up-close picture about what it looks like to grumble and complain or to dispute, to argue. I think they're learning a lot also from people about what thankfulness and gratitude looks like, and perspective and trust of God and submission to authorities, self-control, all of these things. They are learning a ton right now because I don't know, Stephen and Josh, what you guys would say, but it seems like this is such uncharted territory and there's been so much confusion that everybody is learning so much because it's all new, and they're always watching other people and how they're doing things because they're not sure themselves what to do. So it's this constant, like, watching other people trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, like, again, like one of the big fears I guess from parents right now is that, like, my kids aren't learning anything if they're online, and you want to get your kids into school so that they can learn again, and, like, they're not going to retain anything. But I think what you're saying is right, Aaron, is that we're actually learning as a society a whole bunch about people and about belief systems and about how do we know when things are true or not true, and how do we find information, and how do we see, what is a right way to honor people and love people and serve people. And, like, I think the important challenge right now is figuring out how do you leverage the situation and context that you're in, and how do you leverage what they are learning. As we're all going through this learning curve together, how do you leverage that and point that towards Christ, and keep in mind that, like, no, actually they're learning a ton. How do we as parents guide their learning towards things that are much more than temporary? So it's like whatever they're going to learn in school, like, is going to be of some amount of temporariness. It's going to be important. It's going to help them in their future. But there's, like, much more important and deeper things that we can character, eternal things that we can push towards.
That is worth your time listening to the podcast right there. We can be done. Like we just said, it's how, like, leverage this time to get your kids to focus on Christ and eternal things, not just temporary things. It's like that's awesome. Josh, Stephen, what do you guys think is the biggest thing that your students need to learn right now during this? So this time that's unique, you said leverage. Would you say, Stephen, that that's the most important thing, to focus on eternal and not temporary things? What would you say is the most important?
I mean, it's always really easy to say, like, yes, it's more important to focus on eternal things than temporary things, because eternal things last longer. That's why they're eternal. But yeah, it's
God
like,
tells us to do,
what's the most important thing to teach your kids right now? I mean, like, we're all of life as a follower of Christ is about growing in sanctification, growing to become more like Jesus, and everything that we're learning or taking in should be in some way shaping and helping us do that better and be more faithful. So an aspect of that you could be learning during this season, I guess, would just be, what does it look like to be faithful in the midst of confusing circumstances? And what does it look like to not be faithful, and to be ignorant, and to be hurtful, and to be painful? And I think kids are seeing that in Christians or in people that confess Christ, and they're getting lots of conflicting ways of handling confusion and chaos, and they're trying to dictate, okay, what does it mean to be a Christian? What does it mean to follow Jesus? How would Jesus respond? Because I'm seeing lots of people do it differently that all seem to say they believe the same thing. So I think right now is a time to push towards, okay, this is what it looks like to follow Christ in the midst of chaos. This is what it looks like from Scripture, and this is how we as a family are going to live this out in a way that honors God.
Yeah, that's great. Josh, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to riff off of what Pastor Brian talked about yesterday, which was just learning contentment. And one of the things he said was, like, a lot of times we think of contentment as, like, this weak, fluffy word. Like, you just kind of have to go with it, and that's what contentment is. You kind of just, like, let things happen. And he's like, that's not what contentment is at all. And there's a lot of, like, contentment is really just seeing who God is, ultimately seeing who God is, and really just being satisfied and stoked about who he is. I think in that it will lead to, how do we live, how do we act, all those different things. I was just thinking about, like, how it is so easy to, complain and all these things, and almost like have a perspective and have a way of living in the world that doesn't look very attractive.
Yeah.
Jesus's way is attractive. When kind of fleshed out rightly. And so I think
At first, it's probably angering to people that are living different than that, but
Totally.
ultimately in their heart, I think it's
Yeah.
attractive. People wish they could be like that, and if they can't,
Right.
they get mad.
because there's peace that comes with
Yeah.
that and all these different things. So anyways, I think just learning contentment, he talked from Philippians 4 and a little bit in 3, and I think that's the thing, just emphasizing what contentment is, and it's not just letting things happen and just whatever, it's
Yeah.
actually pursuing
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I would say to answer my own question, what is the number one thing my students need to learn right now? It's very much like how to be a Christian, how to walk with God during this time. Like specifically, that's the right answer that you could give at any time. Like you said, guys, it's like, but this season of confusion and chaos and so many different ways to respond to that, it's like, what does it look like to be a Christian during this time?
Yeah.
Like that's what they need taught, meaning that's what they need shown how to do. Like they're teenagers.
Yeah.
Like they need modeled. And so
So how can we how
So-
can parents model
well,
that?
here's a few verses that I just wanted to put on the parents' radar to go read and remind yourself of. 1 Timothy 4:12. He's saying, hey, you're young, but don't let that hinder you. It's like you need to set other believers an example in speech, in conduct, in faith, in love, and purity. It's like we need examples in those things so that like God uses other believers as examples to us. And there's even evidence in Scripture. It's like God uses believers and the Holy Spirit to convict us through other believers.
Yeah.
And it's like that's a great thing. In Hebrews 13:7, the author was reminding them of, hey, remember the person that shared the gospel with you. Your Christian father. It's like remember their life and remember their example, and then imitate it. And it's like they need an example to imitate. Proverbs 22:6, parents, like train up your children in the way that they should go. Ephesians 6:4, fathers, don't provoke your kids, but instead bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. It's like you parents can imitate Christ, and when you do that for your kids, you're training them and giving them something to imitate.
Yep.
And there's all kinds of scripture. These are 4 passages that are somewhat well known, but so let's get real practical as we wrap up here. There's 4 things that we want to give you guys to do, and these are awesome relative things that you need to figure out what it looks like. So I'm going to say all 4 of them, and then Josh, Steven, if you guys have anything specific that you'd like to add, we'll go through them. So number 1, stay positive. The second thing is make memories. The third thing is check in with your kids. The fourth is work together. So all 4 of these things I have stolen from an article that we will put a link in the show notes as far as a resource you can go and read. But what's a way that you guys would say parents specifically can stay positive within the context of their family with their kids during this like season of school starting and NTI, in-person, switching to homeschool?
Have a smile on your face
Yeah.
and acknowledge things you're grateful for when you're
That's
grateful for them.
huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the gratitude piece. Like, try often to say what you're grateful for and ask your kids what they're grateful for.
Like the facade, like fake it till you make it phrase, like put a smile on, like choose to smile even though you don't feel like it, and model what it looks like. You'll be forced to think about things you're grateful for and stuff. So,
But also, even to like help with that, like be reading your Bible so you can check out what God's character is, so you have anything to be grateful for. Grab a devotional or something that'll help remind you of
remind
things.
yourself
Like,
of truth. Yeah,
if it doesn't start with you, it's gonna be really hard to influence your kids the right way.
yeah. The second thing, which flows right in, like from that, make memories. Like make positive memories, not negative memories. There's already a ton of negative memories, and
Yeah.
so what are some ideas of like things that parents could do, maybe from your childhood or just like right off the cuff right now? What's some things that parents could do with their kids to make positive memories?
One, I'd say stop talking about how much 2020 sucks.
Yes.
And
Yep.
like, because all that's doing is like reinforcing all the negative memories. It's like, it's just a season that we're in. And do stuff spontaneous. Go check out our other podcast. I think we did a podcast like
Have fun.
half a year ago called Fun, or
Yeah.
maybe it was called,
Why
it called
fun matters.
Why
Why
Fun
Fun
Matters.
Matters,
I think
yeah.
we actually had a lot of ideas in there, if I remember right. That's a long time ago. You can go try to look it up, but I think there was a lot of stuff in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. I'd say like a weekly Sabbath. Like I think taking one night and then a day of just like resting, but like make some special meal that you're only gonna have
Yeah.
that night.
Yeah.
And it literally, like, we do pizza like that. It can be super simple. Just have pizza. I read this prayer, and like we talk about things that we're grateful for, and that's like a weekly reminder for us, and that's been creating memories for us.
Yeah, I would say play video games with your kids. Have dance parties, listen to the music that your kids like. Like, do things that for them are
That
fun.
they would like.
Within
Yes.
reason. So don't
Sure.
do stuff that's, as far as like you're not going to listen to music that's terrible. Or like
Sure.
you can pick stuff though, and there's like a tolerance that you can have.
Yeah.
There's things that are open. Not everything that people love is closed. Like go
Yeah.
putt-putting. Like
Yeah.
I mean, do stuff together that you guys can make memories that you will laugh about. And again, we're talking like this window of opportunity right now. Your
Yeah.
kids are at home, most of you. Like NTI, like there's time that you've got that you won't have hopefully any other time in your
Yeah.
life. The third thing is, so 2 more things before we wrap up. The third thing is check in with your kids about how they're doing. Don't assume they're doing fine.
Yeah.
Like ask them how they're doing.
Yeah.
I would say. Do you guys add anything to that as far as check in with your kids?
The only thing is like, so sometimes how are you doing? Like that can maybe be a large question. So maybe some other ways of saying that are like, what's been hard this week, or what's weighing on you? What's heavy? Is there anything I can pray for you about? Like, when was the last time you asked your kid that?
Yeah.
Like, just maybe
great
think
question.
of different ways of asking that question.
But for the goal of caring about
Exactly,
your kid. Like,
right.
They've got a ton that they're in their minds that they don't even know are in their minds.
Yeah.
Like there was stuff I was wrestling with in middle school and high school that I didn't know I was wrestling with
Yeah.
until later. And it's like, oh yeah, I wrestled with all of that. But to
Totally.
me, it was just life that I was trying to figure out. So
Exactly.
yeah, ask your kids, check in with them, see how they're doing emotionally and spiritually, and figure out what's fun, and stay positive yourself and help them know how to do the same. And then the fourth practical idea is, share responsibilities at home, work together, do the dishes together, clean the kitchen. Like, I don't know, just do projects together.
Right. Be a team.
Yeah, be a team. So that's it. Thank you guys very much. We are done. Have an awesome week, and tune in next week.